Picture this. You're a kid dreaming of NFL glory. You're too small, not fast enough, and no one believes you've got what it takes. Sounds like the start of an inspirational Disney movie, right? Well, meet the real-life protagonist, Wes Welker. This is the guy who had every reason to quit but didn't. An undrafted, undersized, underestimated kid from Oklahoma who turned the NFL into his personal highlight reel. How did he do it? By breaking ankles, catching everything thrown his way, and proving that heart beats hype every single time. Stick around, because today we're diving into the insane journey of Wes Welker, from his high school domination to his college stardom to becoming one of the most prolific slot receivers the NFL has ever seen. Before Wes Welker became an NFL legend, he was already a high school phenom turning heads and breaking ankles at Heritage Hall High School in Oklahoma City. This wasn't just some kid playing football. This was a full-on highlight reel come to life. Running back? Check. Wide receiver? Absolutely. Kicker? Sure, why not? Punt returner? Of course. Wes wasn't a football player. He was a one-man army. Let's talk stats, because they're downright absurd. In his senior year alone, Wes rushed for a jaw-dropping 3,235 yards and scored 53 touchdowns. Yes, 53 touchdowns. That's like scoring in every game and then some. And just to make things even more ridiculous, he returned 8 punts for touchdowns. Most players don't hit those numbers in a video game, let alone real life. But here's the thing about Wes. It wasn't just the stats that made him special, it was his style. He wasn't the biggest or fastest guy on the field, but he was the smartest. He had this uncanny ability to read defenses, find open space, and make plays where there didn't seem to be any. Watching him was like watching a magician. He made defenders disappear. And it wasn't just his talents that stood out, it was his toughness. Wes played every down like it was his last, taking hits from guys twice his size and bouncing back like a rubber ball. You couldn't intimidate him, and you definitely couldn't outwork him. He was scrappy, fearless, and had the kind of determination that made coaches and teammates love him and opponents hate him. Despite all of this, despite the numbers, the highlights, and the heart, college recruiters still weren't sold. Why? Because he was 5'9" and weighed about 185 pounds soaking wet. In their eyes, he was too small, too slow, and too unremarkable on paper. Never mind the fact that he was doing things on the field that no one else could. It's almost laughable now to think that so many schools passed on him. Watching Wes Welker in high school was like watching a Ferrari in a parking lot full of minivans, but recruiters couldn't see past his physical stature, and it cost them big time. Heritage Hall had a legend in the making, and those Friday night lights in Oklahoma, they were just the beginning. When the big-name schools said, thanks but no thanks, Wes Welker packed his bags and headed to Texas Tech University, where he would go from overlooked to unstoppable. And lucky for the Red Raiders, because Wes didn't just play football, he turned it into an art form. Right out of the gate, Wes became a problem for opposing defenses. He wasn't the guy who'd wow you in warm-ups, but when the game started, oh, he was that guy. Over his college career, Wes racked up an insane 259 receptions for 3,019 yards and 21 touchdowns. Those numbers are impressive, but they don't even begin to capture the chaos he caused on special teams. Wes set an NCAA record with 8 punt return touchdowns, a feat so ridiculous it's almost comical. Opposing teams must have dreaded punting against Texas Tech. You can just imagine the punter on the sideline begging the coach, "Can we just go for it on 4th and 20? Because once that ball was in Wes's hands, you knew something special, or devastating depending on your perspective, was about to happen. But Wes wasn't just racking up stats, he was electrifying to watch. He played with a kind of reckless precision, every move calculated, every juke perfectly timed, but all delivered with the swagger of someone who knew he was better than you. Watching him was like watching a masterclass in football IQ combined with sheer grit. In 2003, Wes's brilliance was recognized when he won the Mosi Tutupu Award, given to the best special teams player in college football. And let's be honest, they might as well have named it after him at that point. He didn't just play special teams, he owned them. And yet, somehow, the NFL wasn't convinced. Scouts looked at Wes and saw a guy who was too small, too slow, and unathletic. It's almost like they didn't actually watch the games. Here was a guy lighting up defenses and breaking records, but all they could see was his 5'9" frame. When the 2004 NFL Draft rolled around, Wes sat through all 7 rounds waiting for his name to be called. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. All 32 teams passed on him, and just like that, Wes Welker became the ultimate long shot. But if there's one thing you should know about Wes, it's this: doubt only fuels him. Being counted out wasn't the end of his story, it was just the beginning of his revenge tour. And the NFL? Oh, they were about to learn exactly what they missed out on. If you're enjoying this incredible story so far, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment about whose journey you'd like us to explore next. Now let's dive into Wes Welker's rise in the NFL and how he redefined what it means to be an underdog. Wes Welker's NFL journey didn't start with a bang. It started with a painful thud. He signed with the San Diego Chargers as an undrafted free agent in 2004. His reward for beating the odds to make it to the NFL? Getting cut after just 1 game. That's right, 1 game. Imagine working your whole life to make it to the big leagues only to be told thanks but no thanks before you've even unpacked your bags. But if there's one thing we've learned about Wes, it's that you can't keep him down. The Miami Dolphins saw potential in him and picked him up, and that's where Wes started to show what he was all about. He wasn't just a receiver, he was a Swiss Army knife on the field. Kick returns? Sure. Catching passes? Absolutely. Making tackles on special teams? Why not? He was the guy who'd do anything to help his team win. Still, Wes was flying under the radar until 2007 when the New England Patriots made a trade that would change everything. Enter Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the offense that would turn Wes Welker into a household name. In New England, Wes didn't just play the slot receiver position, he redefined it. He was everywhere on the field, moving like a chess piece that defenders simply couldn't track. If there was an inch of open space, Wes found it, and if you threw the ball anywhere near him, you can bet he was coming down with it. His connection with Tom Brady was like telepathy. Brady would throw, and Wes would magically appear in the right spot, ready to rack up another first down. The numbers he put up with the Patriots were absolutely staggering. 672 receptions, 7,459 yards, and 37 touchdowns in just 6 seasons. 5 seasons with over 100 catches, including an NFL record 3 straight seasons with 100-plus receptions. Wes wasn't just productive, he was unguardable. Defenders knew what was coming, but they couldn't stop it. His quickness, agility, and football IQ made him an impossible puzzle to solve. And let's not forget his contributions on special teams, where he continued to humiliate opponents with his punt returns. In 2013, Wes signed with the Denver Broncos, teaming up with Peyton Manning for yet another chapter of his stellar career. That season, he caught a career-high 10 touchdowns, proving that even in the latter stages of his career, he could still torch defenses like it was nobody's business. Wes Welker's rise from undrafted underdog to NFL superstar is the kind of story Hollywood dreams of. He wasn't the biggest, the fastest, or the most athletic, but he was the hardest worker, the smartest player, and the guy you never bet against. And by the time he hung up his cleats, he had cemented himself as one of the greatest slot receivers to ever play the game. When Wes Welker called it a career, his stats did all the talking, and boy did they have a lot to say. 903 receptions, 22nd all-time in NFL history, 9,924 receiving yards, just shy of the elite 10,000 club. 50 touchdowns, proving that even as a smaller guy in a league of giants, he was always a threat in the end zone. 5 Pro Bowl appearances and 2 first-team All-Pro nods, a testament to his dominance during his peak years. But Wes wasn't just about the numbers, he was about the impact. He didn't just succeed as a slot receiver, he turned the position into an offensive weapon. Before Wes, slot receivers were often an afterthought, a safety valve for quarterbacks. After Wes, they became nightmares for defenses. He paved the way for players like Julian Edelman, Cooper Kupp, and a generation of undersized, quick-footed players who realized they didn't need to fit the traditional mold to dominate in the NFL. Welker turned too small and too slow into too smart and too skilled for anyone to handle. And let's not forget his special teams contributions. Over his career, Wes racked up over 10,000 all-purpose yards, showing that he wasn't just a one-trick pony. Punt returns? Check. Kick returns? You bet. Whatever his team needed, Wes delivered. In an era dominated by towering wideouts and blazing speedsters, Wes proved that intelligence, toughness, and precision could be just as lethal. He didn't just change the game, he left a legacy that will inspire undersized underdogs for generations to come. Wes Welker's story is more than just a highlight reel, it's the ultimate underdog tale. He wasn't the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest, but what he lacked in physical attributes, he made up for with grit, heart, and an unrelenting work ethic. He showed the world that talent is only part of the equation. The rest, it's about what you do when the odds are stacked against you. It's about seizing every opportunity and proving everyone wrong, not just once, but over and over again. So the next time someone tells you you're not good enough, think about Wes Welker, the undrafted white guy who dominated the NFL and rewrote the playbook on what it means to be great. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment about whose journey you want to hear next. Until then, keep hustling, keep grinding, and remember, sometimes being underestimated is your greatest weapon.